put everything down. Because what you are about to hear is not a conspiracy theory, not survivalist fantasy, not extreme or radical or fringe. It is simply what normal families did every single day until about 60 years ago. And it is what somebody decided you should no longer be allowed to do. Your grandparents did 5 things that kept their family completely fed, completely watered, and completely free from every system that controls your life right now. 5 things so effective and so simple that they have been quietly restricted, regulated, and in some cases, outright banned across the Western world. Not because they stopped working. They were abandoned because somebody got extraordinarily rich the moment you forgot them. The first one is going to make you put this down and stare at the wall. In 1972, Colorado became one of the first places in the Western world to classify collected rainwater as state property. Water that fell from the sky onto your roof. State property. Utah followed. Similar water authority regulations restricting serious rainwater infrastructure appeared across Canada, Australia, and parts of the UK throughout the 1970s and 80s. In some of these places, collecting meaningful quantities of rainwater on your own land remained a finable offense well into the 2000s. Your grandparents had barrels under every single downspout. A single inch of rain on an average roof delivers over 600 gallons. They collected every drop, watered their garden with it, washed with it, cooked with it. It cost them nothing because it came from the sky and landed on their property. The system built to replace it arrives through pipes you do not own, treated with chemicals you did not consent to, billed to you every single month for the rest of your life. And when that system fails, during a flood, during a storm, during a crisis, it fails exactly when you need it most. Your grandparents never had a water bill. They never wondered what was in their water. They never ran out because every time the sky opened, their supply quietly and freely refilled itself. That was not primitive. That was sovereign.
The second one involves a tin box that used to sit in almost every kitchen in the Western world and has quietly vanished from almost all of them. Your grandmother had a tin box in her kitchen drawer. Inside were small paper envelopes. Each one had a name and a year written in pencil. Tomatoes, 1961. Runner beans, 1958. Courgettes, 1964. She saved seeds from her strongest plants every single harvest, dried them on newspaper, stored them over winter, replanted them the following spring. She bought seeds once, and then never again. By the 1970s, seed companies had begun quietly replacing open-pollinated varieties, seeds that could be saved and replanted indefinitely, with hybrid varieties that produced either no viable seeds at all or seeds too unstable to replant. By 1990, just 5 corporations controlled over 60% of the global commercial seed supply. Today, planting certain patented varieties and saving them for replanting is a legal offense in multiple countries on both sides of the Atlantic. A farmer who saves seeds does not need to buy new ones every year, and a farmer who does not need to buy seeds is slightly beyond the reach of the system designed to sell them. Your grandmother's tin box was not just seeds. It was 40 years of genetic memory. Seeds that survived the drought of 1959, that produced through the cold summer of 1963, that grew stronger and more adapted to her specific soil with every passing year. When she passed, that tin box went with her, and that 40-year genetic library disappeared with it forever.
The third one does not make you angry. It makes you grieve. Every house your grandparents grew up in had a root cellar, built at exactly the right depth to use the natural temperature of the earth, which below the frost line holds a steady 32 to 40 degrees year-round, without a single watt of electricity. Carrots packed in damp sand, potatoes in wooden crates,
onions hanging in mesh, apples chosen specifically because they kept for 6 months without softening, preserves lining every wall from floor to ceiling. Your grandmother could walk into that root cellar in the middle of January with snow on every road in every direction and feed her family a complete meal from what she stored there herself. No electricity, no grocery store, no supply chain. Today, any below-ground structure requires planning permission, structural surveys, and building regulations approval across most of the Western world. The requirements are so specific that the simple earthen structures your grandparents built by hand simply do not comply. And so we stopped building them.
There are people alive right now in their 80s and 90s who spent their childhoods in root cellars, who remember the exact depth their grandfather dug, the exact ventilation their grandmother insisted on. When those people are gone, that knowledge is gone with them. Not archived, not stored. Gone from living human memory permanently. For the first time in the entire history of human civilization, the working, practical knowledge of how to feed a family through winter without electricity will exist nowhere on Earth in living memory. The fourth one is the most controversial thing on this list, and the science behind it is going to genuinely surprise you. Your grandmother kept a house cow, or knew someone who did. Every morning, fresh milk was collected and used that day. The cow was healthy because your grandmother could see the cow with her own eyes every single morning. In 1983, Scotland banned raw milk sales entirely. England followed with severe restrictions. The United States banned interstate raw milk sales in 1987. Canada, Australia, and most Western countries followed throughout the 1980s and 1990s. Buying milk in its natural, unprocessed state, the way every human being consumed it for 10,000 years, became illegal or nearly impossible across the developed world almost simultaneously. The stated reason was pathogen risk. The actual driver, in country after country, was an established dairy industry that had invested enormously in pasteurization infrastructure and needed to eliminate small-scale competition. Studies from Switzerland, Germany, Finland, and the Netherlands consistently found that children raised on raw milk from healthy known cows had dramatically lower rates of asthma, eczema, and allergies than those drinking pasteurized milk. A 2015 study in the Journal of Allergy and Clinical Immunology called the effect dramatic and consistent. Your grandmother did not need a study. She had healthy children. She could see the cow. That knowledge was not made safer by being made illegal. It was just made impossible. The fifth one, your grandmother never called medicine. She called it the garden. Every household in the Western world once maintained knowledge of plants accumulated and refined across hundreds of years of direct human experience. Knowledge passed from mother to daughter to granddaughter without ever being written down, because it did not need to be written down. It was simply known. Elderberry for immunity. Yarrow to stop bleeding. Plantain, the common weed growing in almost every lawn right now, used as a drawing poultice for infection. Valerian for sleep. Chamomile for children's digestive upset.
None of this is magic. Modern science can explain the mechanism of every single one of these plants. What pharmaceutical regulation across the Western world restricts is the ability to make specific health claims, which means this knowledge cannot be commercially promoted, cannot be taught in medical schools, cannot be prescribed. Your grandmother did not make claims. She made tea. She made poultices. She made tinctures in brown glass bottles on the kitchen windowsill. Her community was healthier for it in ways no single pharmaceutical product can replicate. That knowledge, accumulated across hundreds of years, refined by generations of people who paid attention and remembered what worked, was systematically discredited and forgotten within a single generation. Not because it stopped working, because it could not be patented. Your grandparents were not extreme. They were not radical. They were just preparing for the end of the world.
They were simply people who knew how to take care of themselves and the people they loved, completely quietly and without asking permission from anyone. We did not lose this knowledge because it failed us. We lost it because losing it was profitable for someone else. The people who held it are almost gone now. This is not the end of that knowledge. This is where it starts coming back. Tell me in the comments which of these your grandparents actually did, because I think some of you grew up with more of this than you realize. Tag someone who needs to see this, because this knowledge belongs to everyone. It always did.